The other day I got a message from somebody who viewed my Target tour video before it closed, like during the liquidation, what it was like working there. But anyway, so to start out, the one I worked at was very unique because, very long story short, Target bought all the Zellers locations, which was a discount retailer in Canada owned by the Hudson Bay Company, which is another big company in Canada. It's basically the Canada version of Nordstrom. So they bought most of the stores. Sometimes they would sell them to places like Save on Foods or whatever, and then they built stores in the Zellers locations. And the thing was, this was the huge problem was the Zellers were located in like low density areas, which meant it didn't attract a lot of traffic. And there were only three stores that Target converted Zellers into Targets, which was Kildonan Place and Grant Park and Southdale. Southdale was in a very high density area, but with that being said, they were building this one I was going to work at. It was meant to be a Target, not a Zellers, strictly a Target. Like all the dimensions were precise and how exactly they wanted it. So everyone was excited, thinking this would be a super Target. But the thing was, it was above grade. There was a parkade, and then the thing was, like, there was also escalators. So everyone was like, "Wow!" Like they were so excited. It was so uniquely built, and yeah. So long story short, after two interviews, I got hired as a merchandise flow team member, which in Target language is logistics or shelf stalker. So yeah, but I should continue to say Target had all these weird words, and and some of them would be like team leader, like it could be softline team leader, and there would be executive team leader, which was manager, and then you basically get it. So yeah, I got hired, and my orientation was at a Sandman Hotel, and yeah, this is my name tag. This is the one I started with, actually, so you can tell there's a label on it. So anyway, we were given these at orientation. We got a team member orientation kit. Wasn't much to it. It was basically a bunch of paper in there, and but also this, which I think is going to be very valuable. And the thing is, when you work at Target, you learned that some things are going to be valuable, like bullseye dolls. Like there were so many bullseye dolls. Like sometimes they would give them out, and yeah, but this one's valuable because it says Canada on it, and that's very rare now. So I'll get to that later. And I made two friends in the process, and thing was, yeah, the first day, like the first working day, khaki and red, like after the orientation, was that like there was so much construction in the area, and I had to go through it, and they were giving us groups of where we belong, like where we're supposed to get to know people, work together as a team, setting up the store. And I was in the toy area at the start, which I think it was F, because they did it alphabetically and they had a number. So anyway, we were getting to know each other. We were putting wallpaper up for the toys and all that. And yeah, so sometimes we were in the back room. Like I remember on my first day, we were putting cardboard together and making it so there was something for product to go to. But yeah, so it was for the black back stock, basically. Excuse me. So anyway, everything otherwise was for us to put up, and we yes, sorry, I'm trying to read my notes here. So they'd start doing shifts like fun games, dance offs. It was kind of cringy, I thought, but they had a song. Like Targets had a chant. Like sometimes they would put their fist in the middle and say that's our store name or whatever. But ours was Polo Park, which was I forgot to mention, which was the highest retail density in Winnipeg, where I live. And the thing is, any retailer comes to Winnipeg, because Winnipeg is not a big city, it must be Polo Park or nothing. That's the way to put it. But anyway, our store was Target Polo Park, and they had a chant that went like the Lego movie song. For those who haven't seen it, it's that everything is awesome. Just look it up. I don't want to sing it. So instead of everything, it'd be Polo Park. So yeah, with that being said, we also had food delivered to us. Like there was like Chinese food and pizza. Those are the first two that come to the top of my mind. And the other places that deliver. But anyway, what was also kind of awkward was not knowing where things were at the start because all the stores were empty. Like this is when the store just was like, I'm ready to put the product on the shelves before the store opened. Like not everything was there, like not all the food and all that. So yeah, the other thing that was awkward was scanners were prioritized for the backroom employees. So the merchandise flow team members were not allowed to use them, and it was kind of hard because sometimes we would need to know where things were in order to get things done. So yeah, anyway, my job, the majority of the time working there was moving plastic pallets from one store to the other before the store opened, while returning empty pallets to the back for more to be loaded. When I really liked doing it, actually, like it was fun, and I mean, I knew the job well, and I was trusted for the job, and that was like the moment I got to my shift, that was my job. So yeah, and when the store opened, I would basically stock the shelves, like no pallets would be on the floor. They were not allowed to be on the floor, and that's how I remember. And I would mostly work in the soft line because that's where I thought the job was easier to do. And yeah, and so I had 10% off as a discount. And another issue though when I worked there was I would try to sign up for a red card, but I couldn't get a red card because I don't know why. Like I signed up for the credit, the debit, and I just couldn't get one. It just made no sense, and it was a pain. And it added 5% to the discount. So yeah, but what I did buy with because one day I got 10% off, like an additional 10% off, and yeah, so I bought a PlayStation 4, which was the biggest purchase I made there. I think it was like $390, which wasn't bad honestly, and to say the least. And yeah, and it was basically off the tax and some of the sales price. So yeah, moving forward, sorry, this phone here. One thing I do miss is how I would never go to the break room because it was always so crowded. It was so noisy, and I think it was because it was wasn't like it was a big break room for what it was, but I didn't feel it was. So I would always go to the Starbucks, and I always liked it because it was quiet and I enjoyed being by myself. And it was so quiet when the store opened for my 15-minute break, and I was always by myself. I would watch the sunrise, and there was a very nice view from that Target of the Silver City movie theater, and it was just an empty land. And I would always be reading or looking through my phone and writing and whatnot, and it was just there was no Starbucks like it, and it was just wonderful being. It felt like I was the only one, and sometimes I would watch the managers walking around the store doing a talk and like all that stuff. But yeah, so we're going to get to the interesting day here. January 15th, 2015. So on the news, it announced the store was closing and filed for bankruptcy. And for those who don't know what bankruptcy means, it's basically, how would you say it? It's basically an easy way out of debt, and they're basically just saying, "Oh no, we'll handle all the debt. We're gonna make sure you're good, but we're not gonna guarantee anything." So basically, they're not in control of anything anymore, and basically Target has no control. So when I get there, my manager said, "There's a big rumor that we're closing. We're not closing. Don't worry about it," because we weren't getting many shifts. They were getting cut down. I forgot to mention that part. But yeah, and then we just went on like it was a normal day, and until suddenly, 10 minutes before the store opened, one of the managers said on the intercom, "All Target team members, please report to the TSC immediately." And I see one of my supervisors just from the back of the store making sure all the employees are pushed towards the TSC. And it's like everybody right away, as if there was an evacuation of some kind. And I'm wondering what the hell's going on here. And because I heard we weren't closing after all. So I'm just like, okay. And I remember the room was packed to the rim. And I'm sitting on one of the office chairs, and I'm literally looking around at everybody, just seeing the reactions, and everyone's just looking at the managers. There's two of them were there about to address why we were here. So our HR manager said, "We have some news," and she said, "Oh my God, I can't read this," and handed it over to the manager. And then she said, "Target is closing all locations in Canada, and handed the paper over to her. She continued to read it. But the thing was, I couldn't understand a word she was saying because she was sobbing heavily. But I remember her saying after the letter, after she wiped the tears off her face, "Now, we don't know what's going on, but we'll keep you guys informed right away." But I also forgot to mention that I remember it was reported that Target had a huge, like, $5 billion debt, I believe. But the thing was, I didn't think it would, like, just go boom, like, pull the plug. It was just basically like I didn't think, like, such a big company would go like this, especially with presenting all this, but in ways it made sense. So after that, I went to the Starbucks and I see all these media cars like right out my view where I would take my break. And I see all the flashing lights. And I mean, I think I saw myself in the video when they reported on the news because everybody went to the Target I worked at because it was the largest location, etc. And yeah, and so some employees too were walking in, not knowing what was going on. And that was where everything went downhill, like on the sharpest slope you can think of. So, yeah, within 2 weeks, like I had 2 random shifts a week, and team leaders try to make it fun as possible. Like if you kick a ball down, you can get a $25 gift card. And we were getting paid by our severance because the debt was so big. And I thought it was a joke because I felt like it was like we were being taken advantage of. But before we get to that part, we're going to get to the first day of liquidation. So that day alone was insanity. It was the busiest I've ever seen any store in my whole life. And I mean, I've seen Toys R Us on like late shoppers on Christmas. This was much more intense. So anyway, there was a lineup. There was cars packed. Like you couldn't even find a parking spot, and I was lucky I got there before all that. So yeah, people were barging in, and I was doing a full shift, like just doing everything, because like they were basically shuffling me around the store. Like I carried a TV to a guy's car, that was one, and I spent part of the day in electronics, and I was sort of maintaining the lines. I was checking out people's purchases. I did too much. And I remember this woman who worked at a reserve. She came up to me and she said, "We need to take out some video game systems." And they're trying to get video game systems as soon as they can because there was a bit of a discount, like a good enough one for you to want to be interested in getting one. So it was basically 5 to 10% off, which wasn't a lot, and like in movies and TV shows. So she's saying, "I want all the Wii's, I want all the Wii U's, I want all the Xbox 360s, I want all the Xbox Ones, I want the PS3s, I want the PS4s, I want the Nintendo DS's, and I think it was PS Vita at the time, but that was the PlayStation Portable." Anyway, so she took all the game consoles. I wrote her name. I had like 10 cards stacked for, no, it wasn't 10 cards, but it was a lot of cards. And yeah, I remember there was a huge line in the electronics, and there was just lines everywhere. It was just crazy. Like I think it probably would have taken 2 hours to get to the furthest part of the line for the purchases. It was ridiculous. So after my shift, it was just even more crazy. The traffic was getting insane, like in that area. Because think about Polo Park. For those who don't know, it's probably the worst traffic in the city. Like one of them. I'm going to actually bring up another one later in the story. So the other thing I did was I pulled little pranks because it started to die down quick, like for quite some time, and I would do the odd thing to make team members laugh. Like I spoofed our little theme song. I said Polo Park is closing instead of Polo Park is awesome, and I had a little spoof to it. It's another story though. So yeah, and there'd be people coming into the store like scouting the employees set to lose their jobs. It was like I remember a woman came up to me. She owned a store at the Forks, which was a tourist destination in Winnipeg, basically. And she said, "Oh, you're a nice boy. I'd like to hire you." I was about 21 at the time, so yeah. And I told her I didn't know what my plan was, but I'll keep it in mind. But I was looking for jobs at the time because sometimes I was like, I don't know if the severance is worth it. It was like crushing my soul, honestly. And a man came from Chicago who worked for the liquidation company, basically running the store, making sure everything was gone and making sure like we were saving money and all that sort of stuff. And he basically bullied all the employees. and he basically had the executive team leaders and the team leaders bully us in order to save money to the point that they would save more money and not have to pay a severance, which I mean I think was stupid. It was only $4,000 compared to a $5 billion debt. But with that being said, I remember there was one team leader. I still don't like this guy to this day, and he acted like he was in charge. He would bully the employees. He would act like he ran the store, and he also bullied me from the beginning because of my height. I'm 6'3", and he was about like 5'5", and it still bothers me kind of because I don't really care how tall someone is. I mean, in fact, like, I don't mind helping out the little guy. Like, I will happily reach the highest thing off the shelf. Getting a little off topic, but anyway, he would push us around and make sure we listened, or he threatened our employment, and he was treating us like slaves at that point, but worse, honestly. And actually, this is a funny story. He misspelled pencil one day. And I mean, if he was a lot nicer to me, I would have happily helped him out. But he misspelled the C in pencil with an S. I actually have a picture of it. But yeah, that's not the point. Yeah. So anyway, things were also coming in. Like, we had stuff meant to be released in the summer that wasn't yet released, even in the United States. That was in February, and even exclusive toys and Lego that was not allowed to be out till, like, I would say maybe August at the latest. And some employees would even grab the stuff and they would have it sold on eBay for a lot extra money. It was huge capital gain, in my opinion. But I think I did the same thing too, as well. Not gonna lie. But yeah, so things got out of hand too. Like, they would just throw shifts at us at the last minute to make sure they would find an excuse to terminate us because we didn't show up. And it was also hard on people who had second jobs or they had children. Like, they were finding whatever way they could. And sometimes they would force employees to resign from their positions if they found some little way just to terminate them. But yeah, it was just out of hand. Like, I remember there was one manager who did not like me, and I mean, there was always one manager who didn't like somebody, and this was the guy. And anyway, he would try with me, and I remember there was one day I had no idea I was working. I thought I had this Wednesday 8-hour shift off, and then I checked the schedule again, and I saw they booked me for a 8-hour shift, which infuriated me. Like, I remember I almost lost my mind. It was like they were trying to play me. And I remember looking at the labor laws, and I saw that employers could legally do that. And personally, I think it's very unethical to just change someone's shift at the last minute. Honestly, like, if I was running an employer, I would never do that. But with that being said, customers would get mad at us if it wasn't a day where the prices were low or we didn't know where things were, because they would just grab things, throw them all over the store, and there was no point of putting it away because, I mean, don't get me wrong, we would try to, but it was just so hard, and like, they would blame us for the problems. And every single day, God, this is one of my most hated questions, is when is Target closing? And if I would go back, I would have said tomorrow, because that was technically not a line. It would have basically caused gossip and made more things sell, because basically we were trying to sell everything in order to make sure the store closed as quickly as we could. So yeah, there was one customer who yelled at me saying I was the reason Target was closing because I raised all the prices. And yeah, so personally, the whole experience taught me one thing, is be nice to retail employees, and it's not really worth getting mad about. Like, only get, like, because it's not their fault in particular. They're not the one who raised the price. Like, you got to find the guy who raised the price. With that being said, also, trucks came in on random days. Sometimes we would get 5 trucks in a row or 7 trucks in a row. It was just brutal. And like, we had so many boxes. Like, I remember I would basically cut boxes all day, and I would basically organize them and put them where they belong on order on a flatbed. And over on a flatbed. Sorry, talking too much. But anyway, they we weren't even scheduled like for trucks. Sometimes they would just go, here's a truck, because we were the largest location in Winnipeg too. And yeah, so anyway, there was one day I called in sick, and I didn't know I had to bring a doctor's note, but I couldn't come in or else I'd be late, and then I'd have to get a doctor's note anyway. So I didn't show up anyway, and I was also getting a bit of a mental breakdown, so I needed a break. But then Yeah, I had to drive to the Health Sciences Center, which is where I'm going to get to the part where it sucks driving there. Like it's brutal. It's got the one of the worst traffic spots in Winnipeg. It basically takes 20 minutes to leave that little area. Like it's insanity there. So I had to get my doctor's note. I spent $10, and my only regret is not taking another doctor's note for the day and saying here are my two doctor's notes, and I couldn't show up. So yeah, it was just it was just insane. But yeah, so in my final 2 weeks of their management got very aggressive to the point they were finding whatever way they could to terminate an employee. And thing was, I kind of got a little job for a bit. I wasn't there for very long. And thing was, I remember I was scheduled for the day for one of my last shifts, and I talked to one of the team leaders, and he basically said, "Well, that's your problem." And I mean, I wasn't necessarily trying to get to him. It was basically just leave a message for one of the managers, and I remember it was immature of him at the time, but he didn't like me because I pulled a funny prank on him. It's another story. If anyone wants me to say funny Target stories, I will save that for another video because some of them are actually pretty funny. So yeah, I had 3 shifts remaining after that, which was on a Monday, a Tuesday, and a Wednesday. And that Monday actually was when I filmed the video of me walking around the Target store. I put it in my pocket because I didn't know what other things they could pull. Like they could say I was filming illegally, which I in a way I kind of was, but I was an employee, so I just did one last walk around the store, and I was off too. That's the other thing. So yeah, the store would restrict the aisles to the customers, like with yellow tape, because we had no more trucks in the store. Didn't really have much, and we were selling out the fixtures and taking them down. That's what I basically spent my last day doing, actually. And I remember sometimes some people who were like they were opening stores or whatnot, setting up fixtures for their new stores, and they wanted some. And I remember us taking them down and putting them in boxes. And someone would walk up to me and say, "I want to buy that whole thing right now." And I'm just like, "I'll get our manager." So I would get them, and they would buy it. And one of my other memories there is all the Star Wars Angry Birds I would see for Xbox One. There were so many of them, and I think it was as cheap as $2, something like that. But the video, yeah, so you can probably see it in there. So anyway, Tuesday was my last day, and so as I was taking down some of the shelves in the grocery section, HR came to me and said, "Your shift has been canceled for Wednesday, and your services are no longer needed." So I spent the rest of the day just getting to know it, saying goodbye to everybody and all my some friends I made along the way, and I clocked in one last time. And I actually videotaped it because it was kind of sad. It was basically that's it. It was interesting, and I remember I interrupted a meeting. I went, "Goodbye, everybody. I am free," and I ran out of the store right to my car. And on the radio was playing "Uptown Funk" by Bruno Mars, and I was honking the horn to the song basically. And yeah, so within that time too, I was getting so many job interviews. Like I had a job interview almost every single day, or sometimes 5 times a day. I didn't even show up to half of them because there was so many of them. Like I just had to throw my resume, boom, interview scheduled, and I had an interview. I didn't go to all my interviews, but I got hired at a lot of places, and I didn't even accept some of the jobs. I just said I think about it. I wouldn't even show up to the job or the orientation even, or I wouldn't hand in my or sign papers. So yeah, I felt also I needed a break because it took a massive toll on me. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, so I don't really know if it was worth the severance, though, if you ask me. But it was an amazing experience, though, overall. Because, I mean, thing is, who can say they opened and closed a well known $1 billion company, like of a store? And not a lot of people can say that, especially since I was there from the very, very beginning to the very end. And so, like, we didn't know what were happening to some of the Target stores. Like, Walmart bought some, and Save on Foods bought some, etc. But what happened with mine was Polo Park, which I said was the busiest retail location in Winnipeg. Cadillac Fairview bought it for quite a bit of money, and it sat empty for a while until 24/7 In Touch and Winners Home Sense bought the location. Well, they didn't bought the location; they moved in. And yeah, I actually checked it out about not like I think 2 years ago before the pandemic hit, just to have a little one last look at memory lane, and it was weird. Like I remember looking in the back room in the Winners, remembering what I used to work back there, and I remember an employee interrupted me saying, "Can we help you?" like 5 times because I try to figure out like how different it was because it was definitely different. Like it was the back room that was the main that was pushed into the main part of the Winners, and yeah. So hey, thank you so much. I know this was a long video of me explaining Target Canada, and if you have made it this long, I really appreciate it, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Take it easy.